trails? Well, I think I've mentioned a few. If we keep the trails open, which is number one and the most important part, and we develop them, and then we reach to the outside, neighboring counties and other areas as we host events. I've participated in events over in Auburn, which utilize the trails over there. They have what they call the toughest little triathlon. It's known all over the United States. And I would like to see some of our trails here become more nationally recognized. The Jeepers Jamboree and the Rubicon Trail is one that's got national recognition, and I think we need to really focus on the economy that brings to our county. And I'd like to work diligently to make sure that that doesn't get lost in the shuffle, as well as the historic corridors we have that connect Folsom and Placerville. So to bring, first off, to say what we have, and then to bring it to the attention of the outside, to bring the economy inside our county, I think is really what we need to get away from just being known as a bedroom community. I think we need to be known as a community that can have places to enjoy, thrive, and come to. We can become a destination.
Okay, there again, I really do appreciate what we do have up there in the Lake Tahoe area with their trails. Tremendous, and I'd like to see some more built down here. And this thing that I just mentioned is happening in Folsom. It's supposedly a whole bunch of money that's going to be available, and they talked about it being available for trails up in the country and trails for up in the city area. I know we have some trails that I have used years ago in El Dorado Hills, up where I am in Cameron Park, Shaker Springs. We don't really have much up there. And I think that we need to try to find some places where we can put them, so it doesn't take us forever to drive to them. Because walking is important and bike riding is important. It's a good exercise. Thank you.
I'll talk about two specific projects that I've worked on, and then also the funding, which is critical for any trails. Having being previous owner of the Sierra Nevada House down in Coloma, I every single day saw people that were using trails in the area, that were coming to the area specifically for those trails. So the economic benefits there are very obvious of people that are coming into the valley, along with people that are just coming to visit Coloma Valley and actually visiting local businesses once they do come. So there's very obvious economic benefits. In order to be able to create these trails, though, you have to have funding. And there are funding sources currently in the county to help support these trails. And there's available funding outside the county, state and federal. But in order to be able to do that, you have to have those trails in a plan. And so the general plan, the Parks Master Plan, the El Dorado County Bicycle Trails Plan, all of those plans are critical to make sure that we keep those targeted trails on there to get available funds. And some of the funding that we currently have in the county right now are not being used for some of these trails. They're being used elsewhere. And so it's time to get that funding kind of redirected to trails that we can all use as residents. Thanks.
So the master plan for parks and trails, 193 pages worth. I hope you've all read it all. It has some good plans. It has some good ideas in promoting parks, promoting trails, linking trails up, doing all the things we need to do to make things better. I mentioned earlier developing a map, and not just a map of here's the trails, but really a map to show people all that we have and where the potential is. And by getting people excited about it, then you get people volunteering, and you get people working, you get people moving forward, and the money can be there. I've written numerous grants and been successful in those to help promote many different things. I did a nature program, and one of the reasons we chose in the coast, the Mendocino coast, to take kids up to and do the program was because they had the trails through the Pygmy Forest. It is a draw. It does matter. And our economic potential for our trails, I think, starts with the trails themselves, but also with the trailheads and developing parking, adequate and safe places. So if you've been in parking places where your car's been broken into, we know that their safety features aren't always there. So the access, the parking, the availability, and continued interest building of the trails, I think, are required to meet the economic potential. Thank you.
I was one of the co-founders of the El Dorado County Trail Foundation up in Georgetown area, and that goes all the way to Tahoe. Every year we have I'm not involved with the Trail Foundation anymore. I down the trail and left that. But every year I do go, and we have people from all over California, Nevada, Oregon that go to this one certain event. That brings in a lot of money, not just for the Trail Foundation, but also for the town, because they stop in the town, they have to get gas, they get food, whatever. So that's a great big thing that I think that a lot of the trails do have down here, and keep it going is fundraising. DMV does give some funding. The Department of Transportation gives some funding to our trails. So I think we need to push funding from those folks. Grant money, it's great, but what's happening is you and I are paying for grants. They're not free. It's a great thing, but you and I are paying for them. So I kind of stay away from the grant situation. But I think more funding from our government, from our local government, I think that would help quite a bit.
When I think of maximizing the economic potential of our trails, I think of it in a couple of terms. First of all, we have to have a significant focus on fixing the trails that we have and maintaining them. And of course, adding additional trails. But it seems to me one of the most critical items for our county and opportunities economically is the connectivity of the existing trail system. We got some great trails, but access to each one of them is very challenging. And so, the connectivity is important, but also in order to continue to maximize the economic potential of our trails, we've got multi-use trails and we've got a lot of user groups. We've got to have the groups work together. In order to maximize the potential, we've got to be able to get things done. The Parks Master Plan was mentioned. It took this county a horrendous long time to fulfill the requirements of the general plan. I think it might be a mitigation measure of our general plan to create a master plan. It took too long to do that. We need to be more functional. We need to be able to get things done. And in order for that to occur, we've got to work together. And that means the user groups have to work together as well. Thank you.
Well, a lot of what was already said was kind of what was in my brain, just to be honest. Of course, it has to be in the plans. It sounds like it already is. As we move forward in Chino Springs again, we're one of the first communities that's moving forward with the community plan, and the trails will definitely be a part of that. And that will, as we move forward, help us with getting funding. So, and funding really truly is where it's all about. No money, no trails. So, and two, groups like your group here, showing that there's interest in it helps. So be sure that you do talk to the supervisors, show up to board meetings, and get people there. What we learned in Chino Springs, you fill the room. Fill that room when there's something big that's important to you. If you don't fill the room, they don't think it's important. So that's really something you guys need to keep in mind as you move forward as a group.
The biggest thing is to ensure the trails and make sure that they're safe. Right now, Placerville trails are being hit really bad since the homeless camp was closed. There's a lot of negative publicity. So we need to turn that around and ensure the public that the trails are safe. Use them, get your friends out there, go out in groups if necessary, and run off those that are causing the negative effects to our trails. I know up in the Georgetown pool area, the equestrians are always having problems with their cars getting broken into. They know if they park there with a horse trailer, they're going to be gone for several hours, so what a great target. So we need to encourage our law enforcement to make a regular visit to those park areas and keep their cars visible so that those people get run off, they know that they're going to be watched and that there's potential for them to be caught vandalizing the vehicles. So the big thing I said is to make sure the trails are safe, track those from Folsom and Sacramento area where their trails aren't as safe as ours are. And we can get those people up. And therefore, when they're in our town, they're going to go to breakfast, they're going to use our town facilities, they're going to shop in our town, and that's where our economic growth can come from, is using the shops and going to lunch and enjoying pool and Kelowna and all the things we have to offer in those areas.
I approach this notion of economic potential from two directions. One is, what's the opportunity to take these trails and make them economic drivers for our community. El Dorado County is sorely lacking in a clear path for economic development, and we've all talked about how proud we are of our trails, are wanting to make an investment and coming from Lake Tahoe. It is the answer that we have seen. Outdoor recreation is the draw. What you do, though, is not just create trails, but you have to create the attached economies that work with it. It's the folks that rent the bicycles, that maintain the horse corrals and have the trail horses. It's the people who put together the maps and the access, provide the guides into those trail systems. There's an entire economy that is built around a healthy trail system and helping ourselves and our visitors access those trails in the multiplicity of them. Secondly, within that is that we have to look at how we partner. They're not just going to be our trails if we're successful. We have to look at exploiting our relationships with BLM, the Forest Service, state parks, and expanding our trails, drawing folks not from those venues into our venues. Thirdly, let's look at general plans and then how we move on to that economic potential and the investment we need to make and bring to our trails. Having served on boards where I've been privileged to vote for the funding and to create it, I can tell you we'll still see funding coming from the state and the feds through the Bike Transportation Account and the Active Transportation Program. Those are probably some of the things you were referring to. And also from our share of the cap and trade dollars. But we have to get there, and to get that funding, we need to continue to invest in planning and identifying what we're going to do. Because the name of the game since the recession and the Wall Street crash is that you don't get funded until it's the famous words, shovel ready. We need to have those plans done, designed. That means we need credibility in our general plan and in our bicycling plan and all of our other master planning. It also means that with anything not related to bicycles, let's talk for a moment about residential or commercial development. No plan can go forward unless you've gotten your conservancy easements provided for our open space to protect it for trails and for public access. It's a critical aspect of what we need to do to move forward. Lastly, in Lake Tahoe, I was the person who pushed to make sure we would start a recreation master plan. Our number one product out of it is trails, and it's our number one source where we're bringing public, private funding together to invest in our trails.
As far as economic potential of the trails goes, the first thing you have to have is people to come use them. And if the people don't know where they are, they can't come use them. And so I think marketing is really important. Since I've been running for office, I've been coming down here quite a bit, and I stop at different stores and meet with different people. And there was this one clerk at this one store, and he was telling me how great a time he has in Tahoe. And I said, well, that's great. Have you done this? And he goes, oh, I didn't know you had that. I go, well, how about this? And he goes, oh, I didn't know you had that either. So he's been out there visiting the area and has done these things, but he didn't know about them. He didn't know about specific things that he could have done. And so what we need to do is, I would propose, is some marketing. And who I would market to first would be the local colleges, the colleges that are within driving range of our area, because those youth, those kids, want to get out and do something physical on those weekends. And it's a great trip, it's not expensive for them. They have, and the first thing they're gonna do when they get back is tell everybody what a great time they had. And have you done this yet? And then they're gonna go tell their families about it. And so you'll get a big return for a little investment. So that would be what I would suggest.
You know, I think this organization does a lot of work, and a lot of it, I think most, if not all of it, is through volunteers. I think that's the number one way you get a trail built, is by people getting up there, getting out in the trails, and building and keeping them and maintaining them. And that is what people see when they get out there and walk. They go, oh, gee, yeah, I'd like to see another trail like that. And it just kind of becomes something in our nature where it just kind of flows and flows until we get to the point where we go into our government and we say, you know what, we want more trails. And that's where our job comes in, is as supervisors, we say, you know, we're gonna go work with the next government agency over here, and we're gonna make sure we get that trail in. It's about cooperating, getting all of our agencies together, because after all these trails are on government land. So we all have to talk together, cooperate, and get this done. But it comes from our volunteers. That's up in Tahoe, our Tahoe Rim Trail, worked on that and dedicated myself to helping them for over 20 years. We've got a trail all the way across, all the way around the lake. That was built by the sweat and long hours of our volunteers. And now governments come in and say, yeah, we're gonna make sure we maintain it. But that comes from within. That's where it starts. And I think it's incredibly important that we start there and then we get into us and we say, we're gonna take over. And that's what I promise to do. I'll make sure that we get the correct funding for trails, that we improve them and we continue to keep them in good shape.
Reverend, a lot of really great answers here. We've got 2 or 3 questions and 2 more to go here.